So without further ado, I know everyone's looking forward to this presentation, and we have a really good crowd. Today's topic is the Buzzard Gang with Michael Zimmerman.
Thank you. Thanks. I would also add to what Corey said. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Was there anybody here that heard me speak 2 months ago at the New Holland Historical Society? Corey was. Okay. What I'm going to speak about today is exactly the same thing. The program hasn't changed any, so it might have changed a little bit, so you might hear the same thing. But well, what's that?
What I missed before.
Just starting out, how I got information, or how I got in my information a little bit. As I was introduced, my name is Mike Zimmerman. I was born in Ephrata, grew up in Earl Township. I currently live in Akron now. I went to Garden Spot High School in New Holland, and after graduating high school, I went into the Marine Corps. After serving in the Marine Corps for a few years overseas, I got out of the Marine Corps and became a police officer in New Holland Borough. How I became interested in the Buzzard Gang. Okay. As a young man or a little boy or child, I was always interested in outlaws. Billy the Kid and Jesse James and all the outlaws of the Wild West. And when my mother told me that there was a outlaw that had lived here in Lancaster County, that's what started it for me. I've been researching the Buzzard Gang for over 25 years, and I'm glad I get to tell you what I have learned today from them. I'm no expert. I can't tell you every single thing that they've done, and I can't tell you every single date and time and when they were in prison, when they're out of prison, because it is so extensive. But I do know a lot about them. I have researched them, like I said, for quite a few years, and I'll do what I can to pass that on to you today. My research has taken me to the Lancaster Historical Society, the Berks Historic Society, the Lebanon, Eastern Montgomery County, Calico Historic Society, and I was in touch with the Eastern State Penitentiary Historic Department. There's one thing I want to make clear today, that this particular Buzzard family, they committed a lot of crimes, and it should not reflect the current Buzzards today. They are great people. We have some of them in the audience here today. They're great people, do a lot of good for the community, and the Buzzards of the past should not reflect the Buzzards of today. When I got interested in the Buzzard Gang, the two things that I'm most interested about, or the two things that really surprised me about the Buzzard Gang, is one, every single thing you read about in the newspaper about them, every article, every single thing you read about them talks about them being petty criminals and petty thieves. And they did do a lot of that. They did steal chickens. They did steal horses. They did break into businesses and steal food and things of that nature. But the Buzzard Gang were not only petty thieves. They're hardened criminals. They committed a lot of major crimes, and we'll get into that a little bit later. The other thing that interests me about the Buzzard Gang, or surprises me about the Buzzard Gang, I should say, is that the amount of publicity they had back in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, and how notorious they were back then. Very few people know them today. The older generation knows of them. We might have all heard about them, but we don't really know a lot about them. This gang was so popular, was so infamous back in the late 1800s, that it was reported in the Lancaster newspaper that Abe Buzzard himself, the leader of the gang, Abe, had more press written on him in the Lancaster newspaper than any other person except for the President of the United States. The New York Times wrote about Abe Buzzard. The Philadelphia Inquirer wrote about Abe Buzzard. And at one point, the New York City Police Department was put on alert because they had received word that Abe Buzzard was going to be going to New York City. He was that popular, he was that infamous, and very few people know of him today. He was commonly referred to as the Jesse James of the East Coast of Pennsylvania, or the East Coast of the nation. Why his legacy didn't live on today, why he isn't as famous or as well known as a Jesse James, I'm not sure. I don't know why. I can't answer that. It might have to do with the fact that he never killed anybody, but he was in a number of gun battles, and we're going to talk about that today. One of the things I thought about is when I did this presentation, or when I put this presentation together, I thought, well, what am I going to talk about? Is it really exciting to you if I would say Abe Buzzard or his brother Ike Buzzard stole a horse from Sullivan Weaver back in Martindale? Is that really exciting? Well, no. So I decided I'm going to pick out 4 different topics, 4 different things that I believe were 4 of the bigger crimes that were committed by the gang, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The Buzzards are like any other family. You can find them in every state, the last name Buzzard. You can find them in every state in the nation. They come from France. There's a French origin behind it, the name. Like a lot of names, it's pronounced different ways. Some people call them Buzzard. Some people call themselves Buzzard. But for this particular family, they decided to call themselves Buzzard. And for this particular family, they decided to make their settlements in the Welsh Mountains here in Lancaster County. Is there anybody here that does not know where the Welsh Mountains are? Well, the Welsh Mountains is a group of mountains that's south of New Holland Borough, about 2 miles south. And the Welsh Mountains extend from Earl Township into Salisbury Township and all the way down towards the tip of Chester County. Many years ago, the Welsh Mountains was considered there was a lot of poverty, a poor area. It was considered to be part of the Underground Railroad at one time. It has a lot of, or it did have a lot of black communities, black villages. But today, when you drive through the Welsh Mountains, you'll see $400,000 and $500,000 and $600,000 homes, and it's completely changed. The Lancaster newspaper would commonly refer to the Welsh Mountains and the people that lived there as the no good people of the Welsh Mountains, or the uneducated Negroes of the Welsh Mountains. This is the Lancaster newspaper that would write that and publish that. It was such a poor area, it was such a bad area, people didn't want to travel through it. But of course nowadays it's different. But for the particular Buzzard family, that's where they established themselves, that's where they made they grew up and lived their lives. And the father was John Buzzard. And he married a lady by the name of Mary Ann Clowner. C-L-O-W-N-E-R. Some people spell it G-L-A-U-N-E-R. But John Buzzard marries Mary Ann Clowner. And they have 6 sons and 2 daughters. John, the father, dies during the Civil War at the Battle of Stone Harbor, I believe it is. And that which led his wife, or the mother, Mary, to raise her 6 sons and her 2 daughters. Well, of course, being in the Welsh Mountains, it's a very poor area. She couldn't do it by herself. So she sent her children away to the Mountjoy Soldiers Orphan School. And while at the Mountjoy Soldiers Orphan School, the kids aren't happy being there, and they escape, and they find their way back to the Welsh Mountains. Now, as I said, there were 6 sons and 2 daughters. The oldest son is Martin. The second oldest is John Buzzard. Sorry about that. Can you hear me? The second oldest is John Buzzard. The third oldest is Abraham Lincoln Buzzard, who got that name prior to Abraham Lincoln ever even being elected. He was born in 1852 on Christmas Day. And Abraham is the most notorious. He was the leader of the gang. He was the one that has the most press written about him. And then his younger brothers are Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. There's two daughters, Mary and Annie. And I don't know a lot about Mary and Annie. They never really, I haven't ever read anything about in the newspaper about them. So I never followed them. But the six sons started a life of crime. And the Buzzards first got their name in the Lancaster paper by the fact that the mother and the six sons were all in Lancaster County Prison at the same time. And that's what kind of got their name going and what got them a little bit of publicity and a little bit of press. And as I said before, you know, what was I going to talk about when I did this presentation? And I'm going to focus on 4 crimes or 4 events that happened that if I stood up here, I could go on and on and on about all the different crimes that were committed. I could talk about all the burglaries and all the break-ins, but I can stand up here all day long. So I'm going to talk about 4 different things that happened with the Buzzard gang, with the Buzzard family, that I feel are 4 important things. The current Lancaster County Prison, the one that stands there today, was built in 1852. And in October 10th of 1883, Abe and Ike Buzzard were in prison, along with Joe. Abe, Ike, and Joe were in prison at the same time on October 10th, 1883. And Ike and Abraham orchestrated the largest Lancaster County prison break in Lancaster County prison history. And it's come to be known as what they call the birdcage trick. And what that was, Ike Buzzard, or Isaac, he had a canary. You heard of the Birdman of Alcatraz? Well, I guess he was the Birdman of Lancaster Prison. But he had this canary, and he raised canaries, and he raised birds, and he found out that when the mother bird was away and the little one started chirping, the mother would fly back. Well, he started thinking about this, and one day he asked one of the prison guards to take the mother bird away over to his brother's cell. And when he uncovered the little birds, they started chirping and the mom would fly back. Well, he comes up with this idea, well, now I can pass notes back and forth to my brother using this bird. So on October 10th, there's a prize fight taking place in Lancaster City between a guy by the name of Sullivan and Slade, a boxing match. And this generated a lot of publicity in Lancaster City. And everybody wanted to go to this fight. Well, all the guards wanted to go to this fight. And the warden wanted to go to the fight. And the prison was left with 2 people attending it, 2 prison guards. And this is where Ike decided to use his bird cage trick to establish his prison break. He takes one of the birds over, the mother bird, they pass notes back and forth, the birds come flying back to their young, they pass notes back and forth that they're going to orchestrate this prison break. Abe Buzzard calls over one of the prison guards, and when he opens the cell, he grabs him, throws him in the cell, and grabs his key. Well, this prison guard had this big key. It was about 10 pounds in weight. And Ike took the key and started opening all the cells or not all the cells, but a number of the cells on his block, his cell block. And 12 different people escaped from Lancaster County Prison that day. And as they ran out of the prison, there was a guard dog out in the prison compound. And the dog starts barking, sounding the alarm. Well, Buzzard takes that big heavy key and does the first thing that comes to his mind is shut this dog up. And he clunks the dog over the head. Well, the dog doesn't make it. He dies a few days later. I have a picture of the dog. His name was Bruno. But Bruno doesn't make it, and the rest of the 12 prisoners were able to escape over the fence to Lancaster County Prison and manage their escape. A few of them were captured, but Abe and Ike Buzzard makes their way back to the Welsh Mountains to meet up with the rest of their gang members and posse and go on a countywide and a very large crime spree. About a month after the prison break, Abe and Ike decide to start breaking into everything and anything they can. And they are joined by a number of different gang members. One's by the name of John Clifford. One is named John Frankfurt. John Frankfurt's a very popular criminal back in the 1800s. And they start breaking into everything and anything. In Rossville, they break into the store of James Heidler Cigar Factory. They break into a place called Steinmetz Store, which is in Clay Township. Does anybody here know what Steinmetz Store is? It later becomes the old Clay Hotel, which is now Watkins Restaurant. They break into there. They break into Isaac Reinzeller's shop, which was in Rossville. The Lincoln Schoolhouse, which is in Earl Township. The tool house at the Ephrata Railroad Station. They break into the Middle Creek Meeting House. Does everybody know what a meeting house is? Church. And throughout these next few months, they commit over 22 different burglaries and 17 different house break-ins. Now, it goes back to what I was saying about Abe Buzzard being known as a petty criminal, a petty thief. Well, if they're breaking into 17 different houses, that's far from being a petty criminal. And one of the places they break into is a place called Abner Hollinger's Store, which is in Lincoln, the village of Lincoln outside of Ephrata. And this was on November 9th, 1883, about a month after the prison break. In Abner Hollinger's Store, they take off with about $4,000 of items and money from Abner Hollinger's Store. Well, Hollinger's upset about this, obviously. And the next day, he forms a posse of people. And this posse goes out looking for Abe and Ike Buzzard. Hollinger is joined by a man by the name of E.F. Bird. I'm not sure what his first name is, but he's joined by a man named Bird, and along with another posse, or a large posse. Well, Bird and Hollinger were searching all over the area for the Buzzards. And Bird and Hollinger come upon Abe Buzzard and a guy by the name of John Clifford in a field near Lincoln. And Hollinger shouts out to Buzzard, "Halt, stop." And this starts probably the largest gun battle that the little village of Lincoln has probably ever witnessed. Abe Buzzard immediately takes out a pistol and starts shooting at Hollinger. And it starts a running gun battle that lasts, the newspaper reports, lasts for over 2 miles. Hollinger firing, Buzzard firing, Clifford and Bird both shooting back and forth, reloading their weapons, shooting and running, and reloading and shooting and running. Until eventually, Abe Buzzard gets shot in the leg. And a few moments later, Clifford gets shot in the leg. And Clifford looks back at Abe Buzzard and says, I can't go anymore, I'm done, I'm finished. Either they're tired, I don't know about you, running 2 miles, I don't think I can run 2 miles. But they say, I'm done, I'm finished, I can't go anymore, I'm shot. And Abe Buzzard reloads his pistol, looks back at Hollinger and Bird, who's chasing after them, and fires one last volley of rounds at him. Bird gets shot 3 times. He's shot in the face, he's shot in the chin, and he's shot in the arm. The newspaper reports that his teeth are blown out of his mouth when he gets shot in the chin. And it slows them down. Hollinger or Bird, they're not moving as fast. But they eventually capture Clifford, and Abe Buzzard makes his escape back to the Ephrata Mountain. Well, when they interview Clifford, they take him right to the Lancaster County Prison. Back in those days, I guess they didn't have the police stations, and they took him right to the county prison, and they start interviewing him. And Clifford says, Clifford won't dime out his friend, won't say who's with him. But Clifford is found to be in possession and wearing a coat that belonged to Abe Hollinger from his store from the day before. And the crime goes unsolved. Abe Buzzard's never arrested for the break-in or the shooting of E.F. Bird, I'm sorry. And Clifford never gives up the name of Abe Buzzard. A few months after that, this particular article gets a lot of press in the paper of this particular crime. And there's people scurrying all over Lancaster County looking for the Buzzards. And detectives are coming out of Philadelphia looking for Abe Buzzard. He was that popular of a man. He was that notorious. That an actual Philadelphia detective would come from Philadelphia to Lancaster County to look for Abe Buzzard. And Detective Bartholomew was doing his investigation. And on July 4th, 1884, he confronts Abe Buzzard and finds him on the Ephrata Mountain, where he shouts from the hall, "Stop." Did he think Abe Buzzard's just going to throw up his hands and surrender? No. Abe Buzzard takes out his pistol and he starts shooting at Detective Bartholomew. And Detective Bartholomew starts shooting back at Abe Buzzard. Well, Abe is shot in the shoulder, but he manages to escape. And this is one of the stories I was talking to you about. Everything that you read about the Buzzard Gang today, every article. Just the other week, there was an article in the paper I referred to them as petty criminals, chicken thieves. They're shooting at people. They're shooting at law enforcement. They're gun battles. These incidents lead up for the county commissioners to establish a reward for Abe and Ike Buzzard. A $1,000 dead or alive warrant was issued for Abe and Ike Buzzard. $1,000. A lot of the criminals and cowboys and outlaws of the Wild West didn't have a $1,000 dead or alive warrant out for them. Wanted to post. But Abe and Ike Buzzard did. And this was established by the county commissioners. Well, so Abe and Ike are on the run. And as I said before, they're breaking into places all over Lancaster County. And on November 29th, 1884, they break into a place called D.B. Schiffer's Jewelry Store. D.B. Schiffer's Jewelry Store still stands today in Bowmansville, where Route 625. It's still there. It's not a store anymore, but it's a residence, but it's still there. And the gang steals 30 watches, new and used watches, and other jewelry valued at $1,000. Well, the local town is in an uproar about this, and they created what is known as the Horse Detective Association. It's just a local group of people that decide law enforcement's not doing enough, or can't, or they don't have enough of it in the area. So these local towns, like New Holland and Honeybrook and Goodville, would create their own little posse of men that would go out there and hunt for the Buzzard gang. Well, one of the things they do is they find a safe that was stolen from D.B. Schiffer's jewelry store. They find this safe along Route 322. Back then it wasn't called 322, but Route 322 at Cedar Grove, near the Cedar Grove Church. And they believe, well, they're heading this direction. And if you go from Bowmansville to the Cedar Grove Church, and you head in that path, that will lead you right to the Welsh Mountains, where the Buzzard gang finds out at. So a group of men come upon Ike Buzzard up in the Welsh Mountains. Not being familiar with Ike, or knowing what he looks like, this group of men run up to him and capture him and say, you're one of the Buzzards. He said, no, I'm not. I'm not one of the Buzzards. But Ike Buzzard just ran that way. I just saw him a little while ago, and this whole group of people leave him, and they go after where they believe Ike Buzzard's going to. Well, Ike Buzzard is able to make his escape and get away. One of the gang members, George Lippincott, is found to be in possession of 22 of the stolen watches. And he jumps on a railroad, or he's in possession of 22 watches. He jumps on a railroad in Lancaster City, and he goes over to Columbia. And he's going to make his way up to Harrisburg to sell these watches. Well, he's caught by a railroad detective for jumping a railroad, or jumping a train. And when he's captured, he's found in possession of these watches. And that's what establishes the gang. Lippincott was a known member of the gang to the Buzzards. So, as I said, a $1,000 reward was put out for him, or they already had a $1,000 reward. I'm sure it was, the heat was coming on them. You know, there's more people looking for them, more people searching for the Buzzards, and they were starting to feel the heat. Well, Ike Buzzard was captured, walking down Main Street Ephrata. And they start turning up the heat on Abe Buzzard. More people are looking for him. They want this $1,000 reward. And Abe started to sweat. In June of 1885, rather than being caught by a posse or by a detective or being hung, he goes knocking on the prison door and turns himself in. Should they take him in? And nobody ever collects $1,000 for one. I don't know why they didn't give it to Ike, or when these people captured Ike, I don't know why they didn't give it to him, but they didn't give it to anybody when Abe Buzzard turned himself in. One of the other brothers is Martin. And Martin committed a little bit of crimes when he was younger, but he pretty much went straight after that, until 1893. On October 26, 1893, Martin Buzzard learns of a guy by the name of Isaiah Schaefer. Isaiah Schaefer was 89 years old, and he was a well-known farmer in the Grofdale area, which is outside, just west of New Holland. Well, Martin Buzzard and a guy by the name of Joseph Brownswager decide one night that they're going to break into Isaiah Schaefer's house. They hear that he's a pretty prominent farmer, he's supposed to have a lot of money, and they choose to go in there and break in and rob him. So around midnight, Martin Buzzard and Brownswager break into Isaiah Schaefer's house. The house still stands on Route 23 today, right at the intersection of South Grofdale Road and Route 23. And while they're in there, Isaiah Schaefer, 89 years old, hears them. He is awakened. He runs downstairs. And the newspaper reports that he grabbed a fire poker and he tried to defend his house, trying to get Martin Buzzard and Brownswager out of his house. He's swinging his fire poker around. Now, let's try to imagine this 1893, October. There's no electricity. I'm sure the only light is probably from a lantern or a candle. There might be a fireplace or a wood stove going in the corner, late October. The house is probably dimly lit. Isaiah Schaefer, 89 years old. His voice may be a little frail. Doing his best to defend his home. Trying to get these two intruders out of there. And Martin Buzzard takes out a pistol and he points it at Isaiah Schaefer. And he shoots him in the head. Well, Isaiah Schaefer is a pretty tough old farmer. He doesn't die. And Brownswager and Buzzard start rummaging through the desk of Isaiah Schaefer. And they make off $200, and they leave another $800 behind. Now in 1893, $1,000 in the desk drawer is probably a lot of money. It's a lot of money now. A lot of money back in. But they take off the $200 and leave Isaiah Schaefer, 89 years old, lying on the floor with a gunshot to his head. Well, Isaiah Schaefer being a tough old farmer, he lives, he doesn't die. And a servant that was working for Isaiah at the time hears the commotion, goes running out of the house, and finds Isaiah's two sons that live next door. And they rush to their father's aid. They contact a doctor, and a large investigation starts with this. The Lancaster newspaper, for the next several weeks, every day, talks about this crime. Talks about Schaefer's condition, how he's doing, how he's improving, what the doctors did. They talk about what kind of investigation is going on. A deputy sheriff from Lancaster, Deputy Schenk, and a constable Price are in charge of this investigation. Well, Schenk and Price start interviewing people in the area. And they come to a guy by the name of John Curley, who lives on Peters Road, about a mile from where this crime occurred. John Curley starts talking to Schenck and Price and saying, yes, on that night I saw Martin Buzzard ride by on a horse at the time of this incident. And the horse was lame. The horse had a bad trot to it. And they were able to follow these horse tracks from all the way from Peters Road in Brockdale back to the Welsh Mountains, where Martin Buzzard was arrested for the shooting and robbery of Isaiah Schaefer. Martin Buzzard says, no, it wasn't me. It was my brother Abe that did it. And Abe Buzzard says, no, it wasn't me. It was Martin that did it. Well, several months later, the Lancaster courthouse, because of this crime and how much publicity was behind this crime, or press was behind this crime, the courthouse was packed by spectators, and they couldn't have court. They had to adjourn and reschedule a number of times until enough seating and there was enough room in the courthouse for the trial to take place. And Martin Buzzard and Brownswagger were convicted of the crime and sentenced to 16 years in county prison, or in prison. Martin Buzzard, Abe Buzzard was never convicted of it. But because of this, them going against each other, it kind of created a rift in the gang. And Martin Buzzard and Abe Buzzard did not talk to each other for the rest of their lives. Joe Buzzard, the youngest brother, who was also in and out of prison, he wouldn't also talk to Martin because of this. The Buzzards, well, Martin Buzzard eventually, after 16 years, gets released from prison. And he lives a good life after that. He doesn't get into any crime. He lives to the age of 86, I believe it was. And when he passes away, when he gets out of prison, he lives a good life, and he joins the Mennonite Church, and he reforms himself. And you don't hear much about Martin Buzzard after that, until the time he dies. But Abe Buzzard, being in and out of prison his whole life, also finds God, and also becomes a preacher. And when Abe Buzzard wasn't in prison, he would go around to these local towns and give sermons. And there would be a lot of people, because of the infamous Abe Buzzard, there'd be a lot of people that would show up to hear him preach. Well, Abe may not have been as holy as he made himself out to be. Because what the people found is when they left these sermons and they go back home, their houses were broken into. And Ike, and Cheryl, and some of the other gang members were breaking into the houses when he was preaching. Well, Abe eventually dies in Eastern State Penitentiary in 1935. He's in and out of prison so many times that he spent more than 50 years of his life, out of his 83 years when he died, he's 83 years old, he spent more than 50 years of his life in prison. And they interview his brother Joe Buzzard, who was in prison at the same time. And they said, what do you think of your brother dying? He said, Abe Buzzard was the best darn horse thief in all the United States. He said, and I'm second. Well, Joe Buzzard might have been a pretty good horse thief, but Joe Buzzard was in prison at that time because he asked the judge to send him to a long prison term because he was homesick. He missed the prison so bad. And he said, he asked the judge that he was homesick and he wanted to go back to prison, and the judge obliged. But Joe Buzzard was in prison. He might have been a pretty good horse thief, but he wasn't a good vehicle thief because in 1927, I believe it was, Joe Buzzard stole a car in Wilmington, Delaware. And when he stole his car, it was a shoe salesman vehicle. And he grabbed his briefcase, and he threw it in the car, and he took off with the car. But when he was captured, he later found out that the briefcase contained shoes from the shoe salesman, but they were all for the left foot. So that was one of the reasons Joe was in prison. He eventually died in prison in 1941. Abe died in 1945, and brother Isaac died at a poorhouse in 1930 up in Berks County. Berks County Almshouse it was called. The Buzzard Gang, as I said, was so popular, so notorious, that they were talked about in the New York Times, the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Fulton Opera House here in Lancaster County in the 1940s had plays about the Buzzard Gang. The gang was so popular that they were known in other states. People were recognized in other states when they were in other states. And as I said in the English presentation, that the New York City Police Department went to work looking for Abe Buzzard when it was known or when it was believed that he was going there, so he wasn't doing it. These are 4 different crimes that I spoke about today. There's many, many crimes that they committed. They're in and out of prison so many times. I could spend all day talking about what they did and the crimes they committed, but I wanted to hit the 4 major ones. The thing that, like I said before in the beginning, the thing that surprises me most about the gang is how they're known as petty criminals. They were involved in numerous gun battles, numerous shootings at law enforcement, shooting at the public, house break-ins. I could go on and on. And that's why whenever I read something today, they talk about the Buzzard Gang being petty criminals and petty thieves. It upsets me because they were so more than that. But I believe Mr. Brookhaven wanted me to talk to you about 45 minutes, an hour. So I'll conclude with that. If anybody has any questions. Yes. Abe Buzzard married. He had 2 twin daughters. He had 1 son, and the twin daughters lived up in Reading City, along with his wife. Abe was in prison. The family moved to Reading City and lived there.
When the mother-in-law was sent for in jail, I mean, were they for separate crimes?
Yes. Someone committed the same crime, someone committed separate.
You have any idea what the mother?
It was theft. What did they do?
The cave where they met, do you still know where that is?
I'm sorry, what's that?
The cave.
The cave, yes, I'm sorry, I didn't really get into that too much. The cave in the Rush Mountains is called the Blue Rocks, or the Blue Cave. And when the Buzzard Gang was not committing crimes, they would hang out at the Blue Cave in the Rush Mountains. And it was known that, and they even talked about in one of the articles, that the electric lights of Lancaster City could be seen from the Blue Cave at night. And the Blue Cave is off of Redwell Road, just before you get to Peters Road. You go south on Redwell Road, right before Peters Road, about a quarter mile to your left. If you go up that mountain, that's where the Blue Cave is located at, kind of near where the Welsh Mountain bike gang is located now. Welsh Mountain Leaders is located. They say it's still, they said it's still there, but I was told that it was collapsed or blown in on purpose back in the 1940s, 50s. Boulders, they say, are still there. I was never there, I never saw it, but they claim that it's still big boulders, big rocks. But there's
Is there any children that are involved in crimes?
Abe Buzzard had a son that got into some crimes. I never really followed it too much. I didn't really get into the descendants. Most of the descendants that live in the New Holland area are from Martin and John Buzzard. It was my belief that Abe Buzzard's son moved out west somewhere. I'm not sure if that's true. The daughters, I'm sure, stayed in the Reading area.
You want to go back to the
I'll just speak up.
Okay, sure.
Okay, Mr. Zimmerman, you just touched a sentence or two on Lititz Martin. You said he repented of his criminal ways and accepted the grace of God in his life and became a member of the Mennonite Church.
Yes.
I'm familiar with Mennonite Church scenario. Do you know what church it was? Or
Yes,
what
it was.
circumstances that caused him to accept God's grace or out of the life of crime? Do you know any more about that?
I don't know why he chose to go that way. Maybe he just got older and grew up and got a little mature. I don't know. But he joined the Redwell Mennonite Church, which is on Redwell Road, and the church is not there anymore. It's long been taken down, and parts of the Redwell Mennonite Church were used to form the Welsh Mountain Mission, which is up in the Welsh Mountains still today, and also Zeltwright Church. But the gravestones of John and Martin Buzzard are still at the location of where the old Redwell Mennonite Church was at.
You know how far their crime extended?
Their crimes were mostly in Pennsylvania, but they did go as far as other states. They were committing crimes in Ohio, New York, Delaware, Maryland. But most of it was in south central Pennsylvania, or southeast Pennsylvania. Mostly in Chester, Berks, and Lancaster County.
Where did you say Abe and Isaac are buried?
Isaac is buried in, Isaac died in 1930 in the Berks County almshouse. And because it was a poorhouse back then, they don't have good records. Somewhere in the mid-1900s, the graves were dug up and moved to different locations. And because it was a poorhouse, they don't have headstones, they weren't marked very well. As far as where Isaac is buried, I do not know. Abe died in 1935, April of 1935. And when Abe died, his family took possession of his body in Reading. Abe is buried at the bottom of Neversink Mountain at the St. John's German Lutheran Church. I have a picture of Abe's headstone. And it was reported that when Abe died, he had over 500 people attend his funeral, spectators, maybe wanting to see the famous Abe Buzzard.
Is your home still there?
I don't believe so.
You didn't say much about John. As far as I know, John was my grandfather.
John committed a little bit of crime when he was younger. And John, of all of them, he joined the Mennonite Church also, the Redwell Mennonite Church. John did not get into a lot of trouble. He's the one brother that committed some minor crimes when he was younger. He was in prison, Lancaster prison. But when he got out, he went straight and narrow. He lived a good life. He was a very religious man, from what I've read, and joined the Redwell Church, Redwell Mennonite Church, and he was the one that did commit the most crimes, or a few crimes.
Do you know any of the names of other members of the Buzzard gang that weren't Buzzard?
John,
Silvo?
I'm sorry, what's that?
John and Jimmy Stillwell.
I believe I did come across that name.
I had, when I was 14 years old, a buddy of mine lived in Ecuador. We went up over the mountain and we visited John and Jimmy. They lived about a half mile apart.
Okay.
John's house is still standing, but Jimmy's is sort of just a shack. And he was a little mentally deranged, I said.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds familiar, the name. There was John Frankfurt, John Lippincott, John Clifford, I'm sorry, George Lippincott, John Clifford. There was a Hornsberger that was a member of the gang. There was quite a few others that kind of came and went. I can't think of their names offhand, I have them here.
Well, they were old men at the time and they had served time east of Penn.
Okay.
How did leadership happen within this gang? Was it,
I don't know. Abe was the most notorious. Abe was always considered the leader. Isaac and Joe. Yeah, Abe seemed to be like the brains behind it all. Isaac and Joe definitely committed as many crimes as Abe. How he was established as a leader, I don't know, but he just kind of took to that role.
do you know anything about how they related? I mean, at one point when one said one did it, the other one said the other did it, was that agreed upon? Is that how they operate, or?
I don't know.
They were in the Welsh Mountains, they have black
Yes. I can't think of the name, but yes, they did. It was reported that they were quite friendly with the black families of the Welsh Mountains. I think most of the Welsh Mountain families did. Growing up, they were, they lived in close proximity, and there wasn't too much racism back then among members of the Welsh Mountains. I think they all lived in the same type of circumstances, very poor. Kind of relied on each other. Any other questions?
My great-great-grandfather was mentioned in Isaac Buzzard's book as being a victim of their crimes. He had a farm between White Horse and Air Force. And it's my understanding that when they would steal a horse and wagon to go commit a crime, when they were done with it, they would just abandon it, and the horse would go back home. So it was hard to charge
Back then,
crimes when the evidence was terrible.
back then, the horse theft and stealing a horse was a hanging offense. People could be hung for it. And they always boasted about that they never stole a horse to sell, but they stole it to get from point A to point B. A lot of young kids do that today when they steal vehicles. They'll use it to get wherever they're going and just abandon it. That's what they did. And yeah, you're right. That's why they couldn't ever prove that.
Was there any evidence of any certain religious denomination connection before the father was killed in the Civil War in the past, the family in the past?
That I don't know. I couldn't tell.
Is there any murders?
That they committed?
Yeah.
No. No murders were committed, just attempted murder, shooting. Martin Buzzard was convicted 16 years for attempted murder, but nobody actually died. And Isaiah Schaefer, being 89 years old at the time, shot in the head. He survived until he was 93 years old, and then he passed away at 93.
I was told, I heard stories growing up as a kid, up mountains. I was born and raised in Beartown, and I was told that a lot of the Baptist stuff was a necessity because of the Depression and different things that basically probably why they got into it, because they didn't have a father and
I'm
tried
sure.
to survive.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. I'm sure that was a way of life. That's how they learned to survive, or that's how they.
thing too with them that somebody reported in the newspapers was like today that the it's accurate. One place where there was like 500 men in a house. Well, 500 men, I mean, they certainly could have died.
Well, that's one thing about the newspapers back then, and I'm glad you mentioned that because you're right, newspaper writing or reporting back then wasn't what it is today. There was a lot of contradictions. And every little village and every little town had their own paper. So when the Lancaster paper would write about something, it would trickle down to the New Clarion or the Terry Hill Times, and then they would get it, they would write about it. So, yeah, but you're right. Reporting wasn't quite what it is today. There were some mistakes made. Yeah.
Were they ever dutifully employed? I mean, were they to be considered farmers, or I mean, did they ever have an actual occupation?
Oh, I'm sure they did. I've never read about any, other than John and Martin, the two oldest. They were farmers, or they helped out at farms. The others, I'm sure they did at some point in their career or lives, but maybe that part of their lives weren't interested in the public, so people didn't know about it.
Someone I think asked about church affiliation. Early they were with the EC Church down there in Ridgeville.
The father is buried at the Mount Airy Church, Mount Airy Evangelical Church. The mother is not buried with him. I don't know where she's buried at. She's not beside him anyways, but he's buried. That's where he's buried. The father.
She was remarried, so close, right?
That does sound familiar. Yes. Yes. Remarried. I just read that today in an article, but it didn't say his name. But it said that she was remarried. That's the father of the older brothers. John Senior. John.
Is there any available books? This is so fascinating story that's available in current print.
Well, like I said, they were so famous back then. I don't think of any current books that are written about now, but they were so famous back then that they dime novels were written about them.
What do you write a book about?
So people are asking me to do that.
What was the procedure for policing back then? If somebody did a crime out in the county, who would have it?
Well, it's kind of interesting that you said that because the local courts, which we have today, are magistrates, but back then they were called squires. And the squires would assign constables. And the constables had police powers back then. And the deputy sheriffs in the Lancaster County City would often come out into the county and investigate crimes. But, being 150 years ago, or law enforcement isn't what it is today. You didn't have to worry about jurisdictions because there was detectives from other states, detectives from Philadelphia coming into Lancaster County just to search for a Buzzard and Mike Buzzard. And just all crime.
Case for the city, possibly.
Yeah, it was just different back then. It's not what it is today. And I'm sure back then there wasn't a lot of police training. Like I said, the local towns and communities would create posses and call themselves the detective agency and go out and investigate crime.
You yourself, your fascination with outlaws, you think that might be why you chose the career path you chose? You might have an inherent fear of taking an outlaw's path.
Could be. My family's sitting right beside me, you can ask them. Yeah, if that's possible. Nobody asked me that question. Any other questions?
All right, well, yes, we brought some things to look at on your way out, and again, we have some newsletters, feel free to take one of those on your way out, a membership application, and again, if you feel free to leave a donation in the basket if you feel so inclined. And I just want to thank you, Michael Zimmerman, again for coming today. Great job.
Thank you. If you want to